A very good evening to all my dear students. Welcome to English online class. Few students had doubt in this poem, that is a legend of the Northland. Though we had studied this poem and discussed it, but still last time when I took the meet through Google, I came to know that few students had a doubt in this poem, A Legend of the Northland. So today we are going to discuss this poem once again, and after the completion of this poem we'll be discussing the question and answers also. Good evening, Divyansh. Only one student has joined. What about others? कुछ लोगों को डाउट था इस पोएम में, द लेजेंड ऑफ द नॉर्थलैंड. Though we already had discussed this poem, so today I have decided to start up with this same poem. So I'm just waiting for a few students to join the class. I can see only one student who has joined just now. Divyansh, am I audible? गुड इवनिंग प्रियांश. ठीक है भाई, तो फिर से ये पोएम हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे, क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम, एज आई एम रिपीटिंग वंस अगेन, लास्ट टाइम वी took a Google meeting in which I noted down certain doubts, and this poem is one of the poems in which you people had doubts. So good evening, Akhil. So the thing is that again we are going to discuss this poem, The Legend of the Northland by Fobe Carey. One very important thing about this poem, that this is a ballad. Ballad means a long poem, a long play actually, that is told, that is highlighted, or that is narrated in the form of a poem. That is known as ballad. Okay, if the question comes that how can you say that The Legend of the Northland is a ballad, so you can just write it down that the ballad means a long play which is described or highlighted in the form of poem. That is known as ballad. So the thing is that the poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter's because of her greed. Now Saint Peter, we know that Saint Peter was the messenger of God, an apostle, okay, who used to spread the word of God in the entire world. That was his duty. The second characteristic of that man is Saint Peter was a very religious, pious man, okay, very kind hearted, helpful by nature, and he loved God. And that was his routine, that he used to travel all around the world in order to preach the word of God. So this story is related to the north region of the globe. You can assume it near the North Pole, and we know that North Pole is totally covered with ice, where the days are shorter than the nights, and the nights are very very long, especially in the winter season. Am I right or wrong? Tell. So this poem is related to the northern region of the globe, Northland. Okay. So what happens in this poem? Saint Peter traveled all around the world, and he was very excited, very tired. Okay, he was hungry and he was fainting also. So after completing his daily routine, the day's routine, he reached to the North Pole region in a small tiny village which was covered with the snow. And there, when he reached, he saw a small house in which he saw a little woman was baking cakes. And as that at that point of time, Saint Peter was very hungry, so he demanded the cakes. And we know that little lady was very selfish. She did not want to part away with the cake. Okay, so she rolled a cake, made it thin like a crust, and baked it. As soon as she baked, the cake became bigger in size, and she did not want to give that cake to Saint Peter as she was selfish. So three times she attempted, and all the three times the cake became bigger and bigger in size, and she did not want to give that cake to that Saint Peter. And because of that attitude, Saint Peter became very, very, you know, angry. He became very frustrated and irritated, and he did not know what to do. So, being a very religious person, being a caring person, a very pious person, kind-hearted person, what happened? He just ignored and he cursed that lady. And after cursing that lady, give me a second. Wait. Okay, so the Saint Peter became so angry that he cursed her. उसने कहा कि you are not fit to be in the human form. You are not fit to be in the human form. Okay, and from today onwards, you will live a life like a bird. You will keep on searching the food in the forest, and just after that curse, everybody in that village saw that a bird, a woodpecker, flew up through the chimney into the air. And from then onwards till now, everybody saw the bird pecking. So, this is a tale that has been narrated by a folk carry in which the character is Saint Peter. इतना समझ में आया सबको? If yes, then please acknowledge me, show me a thumbs up. So again I'm going to give you the explanation of stanza wise, so just pay attention all of you. This poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered St. Peter's because of her greed. Away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. As I already had given you the introduction about the north region, the North Pole, you can assume that this poem is based on the North Pole area, where where the entire place is covered with the snow, and where days are shorter than the nights, and the nights, especially in the winter season, are so long that the people cannot sleep all the night. They had to wake, and when they wake, they see the darkness all around. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like a bear cubs and in their funny furry clothes. Now the people use reindeers to travel from one place to another place. Reindeers, you must have seen that the reindeers are used in the snowy areas in order to, carry the loads, carry the carriages from one place to another place. It is used that these animals are used for transportation as well. Okay, and the reindeers are attached to the sledges. Sledges are a kind of a carriage which is attached to the reindeers, and then the reindeers pull that sledges when it snows. And the children wore furry clothes, and they looked like bear cubs, small bear cubs. Okay, they tell them the curious story. I don't believe that's true. Okay, now the villagers living in that area, they tell this a very mysterious, a very curious, a strange kind of a story to the writer Fope Carey. But according to him, according to Fope Carey, he doesn't believe, okay, whether the story is true or not, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. लेकिन इसके पीछे एक story, हालांकि the poet is saying that he does not believe on the story, whether the story is real or not, okay, but still he wants to tell to the readers that the lesson which is hidden, the moral which is hidden behind the story, is very very essential and significant. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, Now the tale started from here, that it is about the Saint Peter. As I told you, Saint Peter was a disciple of Jesus Christ. He was an apostle, and he was a very religious, kind-hearted person, and his duty was to, spread the word of God to the entire world. Okay, lived in the world below. World below here means the plain areas. He used to live in the world below and walked about preaching just as he did, So that was a routine, that was a life of Saint Peter, to spread the word of God, as he was a religious man. Okay, and he was the most loved person by God. So he came to the door of a cottage in traveling around the world, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. So after traveling the entire world, he reached to the North Pole area, where he had seen the door of a cottage. After traveling the earth, around the earth, and he was very tired at that time. He was very hungry also. He was panting matlab हाँफ रहा था, and he needed food to eat. And there in the cottage he saw a little woman who was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. Hearth मतलब भट्टी, जिसमें केक को बेक किया जाता है. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked from a store of cakes to give him a single one. Okay, so he was very hungry. He was fainting with fasting. He had kept the fast for the entire day because the day was almost done. His task was over, so he had to break his fast, and he sought a little help from that woman, and he requested to give him one single cake. Okay, but as we know that the woman was very greedy, she was very selfish, she did not want to part away with her cakes. Okay, so after listening this, but she cannot deny directly on the face of Saint Peter. So what she did, so she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. So she started, baking the cake. As soon as she put that cake, the first cake, into that hearth, it became bigger in size, and she thought, why to give this huge cake to that Saint Peter? Okay, as she was very selfish, उसने कहा मैं जब केक खाती हूँ तो it looked very small in size, but when I'm giving to a needy person, it is looking very big in size, so I should not give it. So after that, she kept that cake onto the shelf, एंड शी नीडेड अनदर, फिर उसने दूसरा केक नीड किया, नीड मतलब गूंदना, एंड स्टिल अ स्मॉलर वन, उससे भी छोटा उसने लिया टुकड़ा, एंड शी स्टार्टेड नीडिंग द अनदर केक, एंड बट इट लुक्ड व्हेन शी टर्न्ड इट ओवर एज लार्ज एज द फर्स्ट वन हैड डन। ना फिर उसने जो दूसरा केक जो था, अगेन शी पुट दैट केक इनटू दैट हर्थ, एंड व्हाट शी सॉ दैट द केक अगेन बिकेम बिगर इन साइज. So the two attempts were failed, and she did not want to give. And silently and simply, Saint Peter was standing in front of the door and was looking, observing little lady. Okay, he was not uttering a word, but he was very much shocked to see the attitude and the unkind nature of the people, that the people are so selfish in the world, they are so greedy that they cannot even give a single piece of cake to the needy people. So the third attempt, then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat until it became just like a wafer, a thin wafer, but she couldn't part with that. फिर उसने थिन वेफर भी, उसने थर्ड केक, she also put it into the hearth, and again that cake became bigger in size. Now the lady became very confused. She did not want to give that huge cake to Saint Peter, for she said, उसने कहा ये कैसे हो सकता है, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. उसने कहा जब मैं केक अपने लिए बनाती हूँ, अपने लिए खाती हूँ, अब खुद खाती हूँ, तो वो केक ख़त्म हो जाता है चुटकी पल भर में. इन मोमेंट्स दीज केक disappear, but when I have to give these same cake to the needy people, it seemed very large. So she put them on the shelf. Then what happened? Then good Saint Peter grew very angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Now, with this kind of a behavior, this kind of attitude, the old lady became, you know, the Saint Peter became angry, as he was very hungry and faint, and because of this kind of a ignoble behavior, Saint Peter was about to curse her, and he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm." उसने कहा, "You are not fit to be a human being." उसने कहा कि तुम्हें ह्यूमन बीइंग का फॉर्म मिला हुआ है, गॉड हैज़ गिवन यू a life as a human being, but you are not fit to be a human being, to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter, and to fire to keep you warm. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food, by boring and boring and boring, all day in the hard dry wood. Now he cursed her. उसने कहा, not fit to be a human being, from today onwards, you will live a life of a birds. You will go and fly and search for your food by boring and boring and boring into the woods. Woods means forest. Then up she kept through the chimney, never speaking a word. The woman felt so depressed that she did not speak a word. She went inside the room, and everybody saw that who came out of the chimney. The woodpecker came out of the chimney, for she was changed into a bird. So she had a scarlet cap on her head. Scarlet means bright red shiny hat on her head, and that was left the same, because all her clothes were burned black as coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the woods, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. उस दिन से लेकर के आज का दिन है. Everybody is a witness that everybody has seen that bird boring and boring for food in the forest. So the moral that is hidden behind this poem is to never be so selfish, never be so greedy. Always have a habit of giving. Whatever you have, if you can give to the needy people, if you try to, you know, if you try to inculcate good values in yourself, and always try to help the needy people in whatever way you want, okay, God will definitely bless you. It is just like a karma. कोई कर्ज नहीं देगा तुम लोगों को, okay. ये हम लोगों को कोई कर्स नहीं देगा अगर हम लोग कोई गलत काम करते हैं. Nobody is going to give us curse. But the moral, the actual moral that is hidden behind this poem is that karma. Karma means what you sow, so shall you reap. जैसा करोगे वैसा ही भरोगे. If you do bad, bad things will come upon you in any form. If you do good, good things will come upon you in any form. So the thing is that never to adopt a selfish attitude. Sometimes it's good to be selfish, okay, like these days, uh, in COVID-19 we cannot share our foods, and the other things we cannot, handshake with our friends. So that is another thing, but still never to adopt this kind of attitude. This is the moral that is hidden behind this poem. So the ballad is a song narrating a story in the short stanzas. Ballads are a part of a folk culture, of popular culture, and are passed on orally from one generation to the next. A legend to the Northland is a ballad. I hope that now this poem is clear to each and everyone. Yes or no? अभी किसी को कोई डाउट नहीं होना चाहिए इस पोएम में. ठीक है. इफ़ यू पीपल हैव अंडरस्टूड, इट्स गुड. So after this class I'll be sending some notes. Just pay attention what I'm saying. I'll be sending some notes based on this chapter, okay? Some question and answers and the reference to the context also. Not reference to the context, but the explanation of stanzas, the important stanzas along with the central idea, theme and summary. Go through those notes, and if you find any problem in any of the points, you may ask. Understood? So till then, take care all of you. अभी मैं थोड़ी देर में नोट्स भेज दूंगा इस पोएम से रिलेटेड on the wisdom group. Till then, take care all of you. Goodbye and thank you so much. Thank you all of you.